Okay, let's jump right in. We're doing a really crucial deep dive today, and it's all about a strategic path for financial advisors. Specifically for those who see that, the real future of wealth building isn't in that traditional retail model anymore.
That's right. Our mission today is to really analyze this 6-month 11X program. It's from the Financial Design's 11X Business Advisor Institute. And this isn't just theory. The curriculum is built on, 40 years of actual in-the-trenches experience from Rick Scruggs.
A true veteran.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And it's fundamentally about transforming an advisor's whole identity, getting them out of that solo salesperson box and making them a strategic partner.
And the source materials, they are so clear about what's at stake here.
Yeah.
They call the private and family business owner market, and I'm quoting, the single biggest asset class in the economy.
Exactly.
So you're not targeting some small niche. This is the core engine of wealth.
It is. And yet, if you look at it from the outside, this massive asset, the business itself, it's often so unprotected or undervalued or just misunderstood. The whole promise of the 11X framework is that transformation, turning a generalist into a leadership advisor, a business wealth coach, and a real firm builder. Someone who can handle all that complexity.
So if you're listening and you feel like you're stuck in that transactional sales loop, this deep dive is about the specific language, the systems, the whole infrastructure.
The 11X Advisor Network.
Right. The network that lets you actually compete and win here. So let's start with the name. It's called 11X. Why not just 10X? That's the one we always hear about.
It's such a powerful point of differentiation. The whole concept is framed as 10X plus you, your firm, and your business. It's an acknowledgement that to give that exponential 10X value to a business client, you first have to treat your own practice like a serious, scalable enterprise.
You have to build a 10X firm to serve a 10X client.
You got it. You can't do it as a solo operator working out of a spreadsheet.
That right there, that changes the whole conversation. It's not how do I sell more products, it's how do I scale my own leadership and my own infrastructure.
Precisely. And that's a huge shift in identity. The curriculum tackles that right away in the first month. The sources talk about moving from being a benefits communicator to a change navigator.
A benefits communicator, that's someone who just delivers the info, the rates, the returns, product features. But what does it actually mean practically to be a change navigator?
A navigator, well, they guide the client through complexity, through uncertainty, and often through some pretty difficult emotional stuff. To do that, the advisor has to first figure out their own unique ability, what they bring that no one else can, and then, this is crucial, build systems and protocols around it.
So it's not just a one-off performance.
No, you want a reliable, repeatable delivery system. That's what the 11X framework provides. It's not about being a chaotic genius. It's about being a systemic genius.
Okay, so you've got this new identity as a navigator. The next massive hurdle has to be just getting in the door. Business owners are, famously skeptical. How does the curriculum teach advisors to get past that sales resistance and build trust fast?
Yeah, that's where the strategy for month 2 comes in. It's all about mastering what they call the 2 promises and 2 agreements. And this framework, it's designed to just completely disarm the prospect because you're establishing a safe relationship before you ever talk about solutions or money.
Okay, can you give us a sense of what those are? Conceptually, if they're that central to building trust, we need to understand the mechanism.
Sure. So conceptually, the 2 promises usually center on confidentiality and non-judgment. The advisor basically promises to treat everything they see, no matter how messy the financials are, with total discretion. Then the agreements pivot to a collaborative process. You agree to be completely transparent about any gaps you find, and you agree to follow a structured discovery process.
So it signals you're an objective partner, not just another salesperson trying to push a product.
You're not there to judge. You're there to help fix things. And once that trust is there, then you can move to quantifying the value. And that brings in a major leverage point, the 1% solution.
Right. And the 1% solution sounds like the most critical reframing tool in the whole program, especially with Rick Scruggs' expertise behind it.
It is. Traditional advice, it's all about a fee on liquid assets, right? AUM. And this flips that on its head. The focus is entirely on the business itself, the client's biggest asset.
So the advisor isn't charging 1% of the client's 401k balance.
No, not at all. They position their work as an investment. The fee might be something like 1% of the increased business valuation they help create. That makes the advisor a profit center, not a cost.
Uh-huh.
They use systems like Value Compass to find actual quantifiable money left on the table.
Hmm.
Lost tax efficiencies, huge structural gaps, no sale readiness.
That is the ultimate leverage point. You're basically walking in and saying, look, Mr. and Miss Business Owner, you're currently losing $500,000 a year from these inefficiencies. I can fix that. My strategic fee is $50,000.
Yes, I'm creating a net new $450,000 in value for you right now.
You're not just managing a portfolio anymore. You're correcting flaws in their main wealth engine.
It's the difference between managing their checking account and helping them protect the entire castle.
Mm.
And that completely changes the value prop and, frankly, justifies a real value-based engagement fee.
That's a perfect lead-in to month 3, which is all about scaling that success. So you've landed the client, you've shown the value. Now you have to move from being a solo act to a process-driven organization.
It's the anti-burnout strategy. The program really hammers this home. You need a repeatable, predictable process. Otherwise, you just fall into that trap of constantly casing new clients or getting bogged down in custom manual work for the ones you have.
So success comes from momentum, not just frantic effort.
Process-driven momentum, yes.
Yeah.
And this focus on process is directly tied to the technical knowledge you need in this market. For instance, the curriculum does a deep dive into valuation components, specifically EBITDA add-backs.
Why is that one detail so important for this new architect role?
Well, if you're going to advise on the business asset, you have to speak the language of M&A. It's that simple. Most owners run personal expenses through the business, or they have big one-time costs.
Sure.
If the advisor doesn't know how to properly identify and document those so they can be added back to the earnings, to EBITDA, they're leaving a fortune on the table. A proper add-back can instantly increase the business's EBITDA, which directly multiplies its sale value.
Wow.
It's often the single fastest way to boost the owner's eventual payday.
And knowing those details is what allows you to step into that critical role the curriculum talks about, becoming the architect, not the plumber.
That is the defining difference. It really is.
Explain that.
The plumber is reactive. They get a call, they come in, they fix one single isolated leak, a missing buy-sell agreement, a gap in the retirement plan, and then they leave.
Right.
The architect, though, they lead the whole project. They see the master blueprint. They see how the business structure, the tax planning, the personal estate, the team, and the exit all connect. They're orchestrating the entire crew.
Making sure every specialist is working toward that one big goal, monetizing the owner's life's work.
Exactly.
Okay, that sounds great in theory. But for an advisor who is used to being the only expert in the room, making that pivot to architect, to the conductor, that must be terrifying.
It's a huge psychological hurdle. It's the fear of complexity and then the fear of charging a fee that's actually appropriate for that level of oversight. The architect has to accept that they don't have to build every wall themselves. They must rely on outside experts. And the 11X program, backed by decades of Rick Scruggs' strategic wins, it gives them the confidence and the proven systems to do that. The language, the contracts, the process, it's all there so they can step back and lead.
Which brings us perfectly into month 4, where this whole idea of leverage and support becomes, well, non-negotiable.
Absolutely. The complexity here demands humility. You can't be a certified expert in tax, law, valuation, and M&A. It's impossible. That's why the curriculum teaches you how to scale your own firm with tools like AI-driven leadership and, most importantly, how to build and deploy your support structure.
And that's the Army, right? This concept of bringing a whole vetted network of specialists to the table.
It's the core differentiator of the 11X Advisor Network. Instead of an advisor spending years trying to find and vet a good tax attorney, the network gives them access to an established army of specialists who already get the 11X methodology. The advisor just has to be the expert integrator.
Just think about that shift in power if you're listening. You walk into a meeting, not just selling your own knowledge, but selling your ability to mobilize an entire vetted, specialized team instantly.
And that is what lets the advisor confidently charge those value-based engagement fees. You're not being paid for your time anymore. You're paid for providing comprehensive orchestrated solutions and for closing these massive financial gaps that most advisors just walk right past.
And the curriculum points to some really advanced strategies here. We're not talking about basic financial planning. It mentions things like retroactive qualified plans or tax-deductible life insurance inside a 401k.
These are high-leverage moves. A retroactive plan can let a super profitable business owner generate huge immediate tax deductions for the prior year. These aren't things you can just Google. These are implementation-level strategies that advisors in the 11X network are trained to deploy to create immediate 6- or 7-figure value.
So as we get into the final months, the focus shifts to the end game, the exit, transition readiness, and the soft skills you need to survive in this role. Month 5 is about protecting the owner from what the curriculum calls the rubber glove treatment.
It's a vivid phrase, isn't it? It perfectly describes what happens when an unprepared owner goes through due diligence in a sale. The buyer's team just tears through everything, the financials, the structure, looking for flaws. The advisor's job is to be the primary shield. Get the owner organized and structurally sound long before a sale is even on the table. That preparedness just dramatically increases the final price and makes the whole thing smoother.
But dealing with that kind of high stakes, high emotion situation, it has to take incredible resilience. The curriculum isn't just about numbers. Session 10 is explicitly about strengthening psychological mental fortitude.
Well, you're coaching leaders. You're dealing with very successful people who might resist your advice. The advisor needs that mental toughness to handle rejection, to manage conflict, and to stick to the process, knowing that their expertise coming from Rick Scruggs' tested frameworks is the right way to go.
And finally, month 6 ties it all together for the long haul. You've created the value, orchestrated the plan. How do you keep that relationship going and become indispensable for the next decade?
This is where the advisor learns to keep evolving. The program teaches high-level operating systems for scaling, not just the client's business, but their own firm, using things like the Rockefeller habits. It's also about navigating the stair-step of that long-term relationship, making sure the engagement keeps moving to the next level, toward a continuous strategic partnership.
And the final piece, session 12, gives them the ultimate tool to drive action, quantifying the cost of waiting.
This is the skill of creating urgency. The advisor has found the gaps, they've shown the potential upside, and now they have to show the opportunity cost of doing nothing. Yeah. When you can show a client the lost EBITDA, the extra taxes they'll pay, the reduced sale multiple that happens if they wait just one more year, that's a powerful motivator to move forward right now.
So if we boil this whole 6-month journey down a journey guided by Rick Scruggs' 40 years of experience, the message is systemic change. It's about getting the specific language, the proven systems, and the tools you need to win in this private business market.
The path is totally clear. You shed the skin of the product salesperson, you avoid being just the reactive plumber, and you fully step into the role of the architect and the change navigator. And that's what lets you truly protect the owner's castle and operate with the full backing of the 11X Advisor Network.
It's the difference between showing up with a single hammer versus showing up with an entire highly trained construction crew at your command.
What's so interesting is that the sources keep saying this market needs systems. You're selling a proven process, not just your personality.
So what's the big takeaway for you, the listener? If the private business market really is the single biggest asset class in the economy, just think about this. How many enormous financial, structural, and transitional gaps are out there right now, completely unaddressed, just because the owner doesn't have an architect leading the conversation, backed by an army of specialists? What is the real quantifiable cost to that owner, to their family, to the economy, of all those overlooked, unfixed gaps? That's the opportunity.
That's a powerful thought to end on.
That's our deep dive for today. We hope you feel a little more informed and maybe a lot more curious about becoming the architect.